All right, welcome back, everybody. Just remember, if you have not finished the Chapter 17 test, please get that done and share that with me to my school email and make sure I'm able to comment on it as well. Thank you. And so now we're going to continue on with topic 8, which is sectionalism and civil war. So we're going to cover the time periods between 1820 and 1865 for this chapter. Now, lesson 1 is called conflicts and compromises. So over the next 2 days, we're going to kind of discuss what is going to lead up to the southern states seceding from the Union and trying to form their own country. So, vocab for this section is Missouri Compromise, Popular Sovereignty, Free Soil Party, Secede, Fugitive, Civil War, Compromise of 1850, and Fugitive Slave Act. In 1819, there were 11 free states in the North and 11 slave states in the South. The North and South had different economies, political views, and ideas about slavery. These differences created a growing sectionalism, and remember sectionalism, the rivalry or tension that develops between people who are loyal to their section or region of the country. This era of sectionalism will last from the 1810s to the 1860s. As a result of sectionalism, there were many political conflicts over issues important to each region. So remember, originally sectionalism was north, south, and west, and now we're going to see it more just north and south. So we're going to start with the Missouri Compromise. So before 1819, the equal number of slave and free states balanced the sectional divide. In other words, before 1819, there were the equal number of states with slavery and without. Therefore, in the Senate, they had equal power. But in 1819, Missouri applied to join the Union as a slave state, and a crisis will erupt. Now, this crisis will start because with Missouri's admission, this would give the South a majority in the Senate, and the Northerners were not willing to lose power and opposed letting Missouri enter as a slave state. So, in other words, because Missouri would have entered as a slave state, the slave states would have had more power in the Senate than the free states would, and well, the North just didn't want to lose that battle. So the argument will last for many months, and during the debate, Maine will also apply for statehood as a free state. So during this whole debate on whether or not to add Missouri, the fact that Maine will want to join now is going to help the whole situation temporarily. Henry Clay is going to suggest admitting Missouri as a slave state and Maine as a free state. Now, keep in mind, Henry Clay, we've been talking about him quite a bit. Um, and so the whole idea would keep a balance between both the slave and free states. So his plan would become known as the Missouri Compromise, and it will keep the number of slave and free states equal in the Senate and, well, the House, but the House has different representation. In the Missouri Compromise, Congress drew an imaginary line extending the southern border of Missouri at latitude 36 degrees and 30 minutes. Now, if you look in your book on page 480, you can see a red line under Missouri and just above the Arkansas Territory. This area um, underneath that red line would become slave states, and anything north of the line will become a free state. So slavery will be permitted in the part of the Louisiana Purchase south of that line, and it was banned north of it. So remember, this only applies to the states created during the Louisiana Territory Purchase. So the Missouri Compromise will apply only to the Louisiana Purchase. And by 1846, though, there were rumblings of a war with Mexico, and the U.S. expected to gain vast new lands because of this. Remember, we would have Texas being added, New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, Utah, and California all being added as part of this war. So, once again, the question of slavery in the territories would arise. And many Northerners feared that the South would extend slavery into the West. They didn't want to do that because most of them wanted to end slavery at this point, and also they also didn't want to do it because, well, it could give the South more power. So Congressman David Wilmot of Pennsylvania called for a law to ban slavery in any territories won from Mexico. So any territory that we would gain from beating Mexico in a war would be entered as a free state. Southern leaders will angrily oppose this Wilmot Proviso, though, as it became known. And they said that Congress had no right to ban slavery in the West, and the House will pass the Wilmot Proviso in 1846. However, the Senate will defeat it. In other words, it's going to pass the House, but not pass in the Senate. Therefore, the bill died. And as the debate over slavery heated up, people are going to start to take sides all across the nation. Abolitionists believed slavery was morally wrong and wanted it banned throughout the country. So slaveholders thought that slavery should be allowed in any territory. They also demanded that enslaved African Americans who escaped to the North be returned to them, and this is going to be a huge issue that we're going to talk about in the future. And even white Southerners who did not enslave African Americans generally agreed with both these ideas. So between these two extremes, some moderates would argue that the Missouri Compromise line should be extended west all the way to the Pacific Ocean. So in other words, that line at 36 degrees and 30 minutes north would extend all the way to the Pacific Ocean. And so any state south or north of the line, sorry, would be a free state. Any state south of the line would be a slave state. Others would feel that slavery should be allowed where it existed, but it should not be expanded to new territories. So everyone's kind of a little bit of everywhere on this map of what to do about slavery. And the thing to remember is that still others will support the idea of popular sovereignty or the right of the people to create their government. And the people get to choose if they are a slave state or not. So some people just wanted to leave it up to whether or not this people in the state wanted to be a slave state. Now, by 1848, many Northern Democrats and Whigs opposed the spread of slavery, but with the presidential election that year, leaders of both parties refused to take a stand for fear of losing Southern votes, and some also feared that the slavery issue would split the nation. In 1848, anti slavery members of both parties will meet in Buffalo, New York. So both Whigs and Democrats that are anti slavery will meet here in Buffalo. There, they will found the Free Soil Party. So we're going to have the emergence of a third political party. The party's main goal is to keep slavery out of Western territories. And only a few free soilers were abolitionists who wanted to end slavery in the South. So for the most part, the Free Soil Party was more concerned with just ending slavery in these new Western territories that we're acquiring, rather than just end slavery altogether as a whole. So in the 1848 presidential campaign, Free Soilers will name former President Martin Van Buren as their candidate. Democrats will choose Lewis Cass of Michigan, and the Whigs will select Zachary Taylor, who's a hero of the 1848 Mexican-American War. For the first time, though, slavery would be an important election issue. Van Buren would call for a ban on slavery in the Mexican Cession. So we're talking Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, California, and Idaho. And Utah, not Idaho. And Cass will support popular sovereignty. In other words, Cass's idea is it should be up to the people of the state whether or not they should allow slavery. And Taylor did not speak on the issue, but he was a slave owner from Louisiana. So because he's a slave owner from Louisiana, everybody just kind of assumes that he's cool with slavery and he's just going to kind of let it slide and keep things are the way they are. So Taylor will ultimately win the election. All the states in the purple color were won by Taylor. Cass won all the blue states. Unfortunately, Martin Van Buren did not win any states, but he did take 10% of the popular vote, and 13 other free soil candidates won seats in Congress. So while this might not seem like a huge accomplishment for the Free Soil Party, it is actually a big deal because it showed that 10% of people agreed that slavery should not exist in the Western territories. And also now we have 13 members of Congress that believe territories should not be adding slavery. The Free Soils Party's success will show that slavery had become a national issue now. It's no longer just a sectionalist issue. It is now a national issue that will have to be faced going forward. So this is where I will leave you for today, and we will pick up tomorrow with California reigniting the slavery debate. So once again, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. Hop in on the Zoom sessions. The links will be posted every day at the in the description for the lessons. The links will appear probably around 10:45. Remember, I'll be on Zoom from about 11 to 12 o'clock. So if you have any questions, please get in touch with me.